Hello students, young and old. Hope you're ready for a kaiju bio, because that's what we specialize in around here. Well, that and other tokusatsu topics. Today we're covering a monster who, spoiler alert, is definitely going to be receiving a spot in my Forgotten Monsters Hall of Fame. The never talked about Geran, or Gelan, however you port the name from Japanese to English, from Ultraman Taro, who is finally going to get its chance in the spotlight. This monster has been suffering from a lack of being noticed for far too long. So let's get this bio underway with some behind-the-scenes history. This kaiju from episode 47 of the show is notable for having a face very similar to that of Gigan from the Godzilla series. It's got the beak, it's got the single big red eye, it's even got a little crest on its head. So this begs the question, was this done intentionally? I don't know the answer, but I'll just say it's certainly possible. Godzilla vs. Gigan premiered about 2 years before Geran made his debut, so Geran's designer, Yoshio Suzuki, who actually worked on a few Godzilla movies, definitely could have been inspired by Gigan when creating this beast, though a source mentioned that the single eye of the creature, as well as the long neck, were later additions, and they may not have been added by Suzuki. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the original concept art. Maybe that would have answered some questions. The name Geran, which means something in Japanese I'm sure, but I couldn't determine what, is interestingly the name of an unused kaiju from the original Ultraman, who would have been modified from one of Toho's Mothra larva props and painted to resemble a bee. Did this Geran purposefully recycle the old one's name? Probably not, but you never know. There's also a similarly shaped kaiju from Ultraman Neos called Durin Geran, who, again, likely isn't related to Geran, but I thought I'd bring him up. The creature's suit was modeled by either EX Productions or Kaimai Productions, and reportedly reused the kaiju Mukadender's neck. When filming, the head of the creature was moved around with puppet strings, much like what was done with King Saurus III, who we covered a while back. These two monsters are also shaped very similarly, so the unidentified suit actor that played Geran probably had to put in a similar amount of effort when performing as Takanobu Toya did for the Kingly Return of Ultraman kaiju. The tail was also manipulated using puppetry. In addition to the main suit, a prop of the head for close-ups, a miniature of the creature after it gets frozen, and a baby Geran were also produced. Geran's roar seems to have originated from Gaia from War of the Gargantuas. Okay, that's Geran's real-world history. Now let's see what its in-universe history is like, shall we?
Professor, is this the Ultraman Taro monster that came out of the ground right near a school?
Yes. Why?
I think maybe you should cancel the class here. After all, monsters you teach about tend to end up showing up at the end of these videos, so if you teach any more, a monster might appear under our school!
Ooh, that'd be cool.
What? Are you serious?
Alright, on we go!
Oh no.
In-universe, Geran is a 24,000-ton, 52-meter-long, giant mutated insect, who was apparently noticed on the Zett team's monster-locating devices before it ever emerged to threaten anyone in the residential area it was beneath. In the end, though, it was not Zett, but some school kids who spotted the monster. And it wasn't the monster, but its child. This tiny kaiju scared a girl on the school ground, so this kid, who was skilled with a kendo sword, ran up and whacked the monster until it died. But then another one hatched from an egg that I guess no one had noticed to this point right in front of them, so the kid took care of this one too. He probably should have let Zett decide what to do with these small kaiju though, because by this rash action he ended up angering the parent monster, who was of course our topic for today, Geran. Geran emerged from beneath the schoolyard, which had a surprisingly large yard composed entirely of dirt, and smashed several buildings in the area, prompting the sword boy to begin throwing things at the enormous beast. Yeah, I really think they need to run a few more monster safety drills at this school. This kid just doesn't get it. He was just barely pulled to safety, and he and all the kids tried to run to a safe spot as the monster, who was still somewhat submerged in the ground, continued destroying things. Several teachers and kids, including Sword Boy, got themselves cornered in a building, just out of the creature's reach. Zett made their way to the area once they heard the news, and fired at the monster a few times, but Geran didn't like that and responded with this powerful energy attack. The defense team continued firing at the kaiju, and the kaiju continued firing at the defense team, so Zett flew out of range and discussed their next plan. They wanted to attack from the ground, but were unable to, recognizing that the monster would prevent them from landing. Meanwhile, down on the ground where Zett wished they were, Sword Kid noticed that the monster had not yet completely emerged from the ground, and figured it was still in a hibernation phase and would go back to sleep sooner or later. And when that happened, they would all escape. But even though the monster did go to sleep, their escape plan failed after an unfortunate noise woke it up, and they had to go back in the building. Zett attacked the monster again as they were rushing back in to provide them with some backup. Shortly after this, Kotaro noticed a trampoline in the schoolyard and decided to try and leap from the sky down onto it to save the kids. I don't know if this would work in real life. My guess is the fall would still kill you even if you landed on a trampoline, but maybe Nanbara was flying really low. Whatever the case, Kotaro was able to pull it off and made his way toward the building where everyone was trapped, but then noticed Sword Boy, who'd made up his mind to fight the monster himself with a sword. What could go wrong? Sword Boy struck the monster right beneath its eye, but this just made the situation worse because the irritated Geran popped out of the ground completely and started walking around. Zett began another round of attacks against the now even more threatening monster, and Geran ended up knocking one of their vessels out of the sky with its energy attack. Geran was then able to pop the sword out of its eyelid. Luckily though, Sword Boy had learned his lesson about fighting kaiju with the sword, and decided not to... Oh no, what is wrong with you, kid? The boy was successfully able to get Geran to step on his sword, but all this seems to have done was infuriate the kaiju even more. Geran chased Sword Boy and quickly cornered him, forcing Kotaro to transform into Ultraman Taro to save him. The Ultra flipped the kaiju over, and Sword Boy's friends pulled him to safety. Taro knocked Geran into a building, but Geran fought back by charging at Taro and somehow picking the hero up with its tail and throwing him into a building. Geran then decided to show off a new move and let loose a steady stream of flames from its mouth at the Ultraman. Taro was able to get on top of the monster and whack him with some strong blows, but Geran shook him off and took hold of the Ultraman's arm with his mouth, the same arm he had injured much earlier in the episode when battling a space kaiju. It didn't matter that much though. Taro was able to chuck Geran on the ground and the battle continued. But the editing got kind of weird, with the footage pausing every few seconds and then showing Geran or Taro doing something totally different. By the time this weirdly presented portion of the battle came to an end, Taro had realized that Geran was just trying to protect its last remaining eggs that Sword Boy didn't destroy, so he decided on a course of action other than finishing the kaiju off. He rolled Geran over to the eggs and then froze the monster solid so it could go back to hibernating, and he took the kaiju and its eggs to space where they couldn't threaten humanity any longer. I don't know how he knew that this Earth monster could survive floating around in the vacuum of space, but Taro's fought quite a few more monsters than me, so I guess we can just assume he knew what he was doing. I definitely trust him over Sword Boy. Okay, minor appearances and merch. What could we possibly discuss for this section of the video? Extremely powerful two-headed Gerans appeared in 2 volumes of the manga Ultraman Story 0. One was apparently easily destroyed by Alien Temperer, and Geran's only other appearance I'm aware of was in the shoot-'em-up arcade game Ultra X Weapons, where it could somehow fly and was the boss of the Air Zone stage. As far as figures and other merchandise, the only stuff I could find images of were this eraser and this card. Very slim pickings with this guy, sadly. Let's cheer poor Geran up by awarding it a plaque to be hung in the Forgotten Monsters Hall of Fame, shall we? That looks like a good spot. Don't worry, Geran, we'll never let you fade into obscurity again, right, students? Thanks for watching today's Kaiju Bio. Be sure to comment, like, and of course subscribe. The big 25K milestone is quite close. Also be sure to follow me on Twitter/X at the Toku Prof. If you want to get in contact with me, that's the place to do it. And I also sometimes post exclusive hints about upcoming videos on there. There's a link to it in the description.
Haha, you were so wrong, Pencil Leopard. No monster came out from under the school. All this tokusatsu must be making you delusional.
He doesn't realize I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two, and I still think there's probably a monster under our schoolyard and we're all in danger. But no one believes me, so it's up to me to find it. I'll take my trusty sword for protection and go root it out. And I know just where to begin my search. Right here, under this giant field of only dirt that's here on the property for some reason. And right away, I'm already seeing a suspiciously large hole that wasn't there before. So, down I go. I guess. Hello? Monster? Boy, it's dark. Hello? Hello? Howdy, monster? Hello? Hello? You know what? I guess maybe the true monsters under the schoolyard were the ones we met along the way. Or something, because I'm not hearing anything. Oh, wait a minute. I just realized there has been a monster under the schoolyard this whole time. Me! I'm a kaijin after all. So that solves that, I guess. Now I can finally go home. Now, which way is the way out again? Might help if I could see. And where's my sword? Ow! Ooh, found it by stepping on it. Medic? Oh no, there are no doctors down here!
Yeah, there are.
Ah!
Dr. Geran Jr.'s the name. I started a doctor's office down here for monsters struggling with side effects from having been frozen and left to float through space. Haven't had many patients, though, and I can't see why. Got a great business location and a huge target audience, but they still don't tend to make their way over here. But anyway, what can I help you with?
Well, I've got a medical emergency here, but before we get to that, why didn't you show up a single time in the last 42 hours I've been here?